Hey everyone, Chris Fatok here with Patrick Lanny. We're going to be talking about one of the big ones here, non-public 3. This is DePaul against St. Joe. St. Joe number 1 in the state, DePaul number 16. DePaul is, obviously no stranger here to success. They won 3 straight championships in the non-public. They bounced around in a couple of different groups. St. Joe hasn't won since 2014, but we're talking about a team that was also the number 1 team in the state that year. This game's going to be at 4 o'clock at MetLife. Pat, what can you tell me about this matchup?
We also got to remember that St. Joe's was in the big boy final last year, non-public Group 4. They lost to Don Bosco in a really, it was a tight game. It was a good game. So St. Joe's, they haven't won since 2014, but they've been right there at the top. Highly ranked, highly touted, highly successful the last couple of years, despite not winning a title.
Right, no doubt. And so now that we're back here, we see St. Joe had a huge win over St. John Vianney. DePaul had a close one against Pope John last week.
Right.
We're probably talking about 2 different teams. Maybe there's a couple of people out there who think that this might not be a game. What do you see?
When I think about DePaul this year, and even the last couple of years, great talent. They're right on the brink. They're so close to being one of these top-tier teams in the state. They've brought in a lot of talent. You've seen these guys go off to school. Kareem Walker was one of those highly touted guys. They had a bunch of those guys. So they've been right there on the brink. A couple wins here, a couple wins there. But in this year, obviously the new conference, they were down in that second tier with Pope John, Seton Hall Prep, Del Barton. They came out on top in that division with 2 great wins over Pope John, obviously in the regular season and then the semifinals like you just touched on. And then St. Joe's Montville, conversely, in the top tier, won that division for the 5th year in a row against Don Bosco, Bergen Catholic, the real big boys, St. Peter's. And then we saw that superiority in the semifinals. St. John Vianney came to Montville, number 10 in the state, 10-0, rolled through their short conference schedule, but it wasn't even a game. It was a blowout at halftime. And that's what you got to keep in the back of your mind when you're talking about St. Joe's. So this is a team that's on another level right now.
Right. All right. Now these 2 teams faced each other earlier in the year. It wasn't a blowout here. We're talking about a pretty solid game. It was 38-21. St. Joe won that game. At that point in the season, how do we compare where they were at that point to where this game might be this year?
This was pretty late even, so this is probably only a couple weeks ago. Obviously, the progression has been very similar. St. Joe's has just been steady, power running team, great defense. DePaul, some talented skill position players, good defense, a couple good leaders. They've played well down the stretch, and like I said, that Pope John win in the semifinals was a nice win. St. Joe's obviously rolling along. So I think both teams have stayed the course and are hot at the right time.
All right, so talk to me at least a little bit about St. Joe. I mean, we have them ranked number 1 in the state. They've bounced around, really high in the rankings all year. It's obvious how we as a staff feel about St. Joe. Tell me about why we think they're going to win this game.
St. Joseph, they just do everything right. They're a big physical group up front, 5 veteran offensive linemen, 2 going to major Division I schools, Penn State, Robbie Martin there, Josh Jackson's another blue chip guy, offers from all over the place. So they're physical up front. They can pound the rock. They can pound you defensively. And then they hit for the big plays. So when you can hit for the big plays and also do the little things right, that's, to me, a total team. And that's why St. Joe's is the dominant team that they are.
All right, so DePaul keeps this game close. How do they do that?
I think so. I think they can't let it get away from them early. They got to limit the big plays. Obviously, turnovers in any game are costly, and that will absolutely cripple DePaul in this one. The problem with DePaul this season against the Joes, the Boscos, the Bergens, is that they don't have the depth to compete late into the game. Right. So I don't know. I'm not a coach. I don't know, but there's got to be some way to figure out how you can match that depth, and I think that's an issue that they're dealing with in this one. But I don't know, maybe some big plays early, flip the table, field position, turnovers, something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I'm not going to make a pick here, so this is all on you. What do you see happening here?
Yeah, I've been a big fan of St. Joe's all year long. Obviously, very successful on both sides of the ball, and tradition and caliber and highly touted players, skill position players. So I think they're just a little bit better than DePaul. Like I said, they're on that next level, that next tier in the Super Conference. So I'm going to stick with that here in my logic. I'm going to go 30-17 St. Joseph. But it's a good game. At least for a half. At least for a half, DePaul keeps it close.
So you think 30-17, St. Joe just pulls away at the end?
Yeah, kind of like that game we saw, 3 weeks ago, 38-21, but it was 14. It was 17-14 at the half.
Cool. All right. Well, 4 o'clock, MetLife Stadium on Saturday. Should be a good one. Check back here at NJ.com. We're going to be previewing all 23 sectional championships.